So there was like a trailer and a half. At least one. Madam Clerk. Welcome, everybody, to the Thursday, October 3rd regular meeting of the Cleveland City Council. Madam Clerk, can you bring roll?
Councilmember Slow,
Here.
Councilmember Purdock,
Here.
Councilmember Kramer,
Here.
Vice Mayor Overton,
Here.
and Mayor Clappy.
Here. Councilmember Purdock, can you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you remain standing for a moment, recently Lake County lost a valuable friend in Mike Thompson's office. So let's take a moment to honor Brad and think about those in your life that may be going through challenges. Thank you. City Manager Porter, any changes to the agenda? No modification of this.
So move that we accept the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor Overton, a second from Councilmember Slew. Please roll the report.
Aye.
Motion passes with unanimous vote of the council.
Thank you. Item 1, presentation of October's adoptable dogs.
Hello, everybody. So for this month's adoptable dog, we brought Romeo. He's a 2-year-old German Shepherd mix. Romeo is very goofy and very playful. He loves to play tag and is very determined to not lose. He enjoys playing with toys of all sorts. Romeo has made many friends while being at the shelter and gets along great with male and female dogs. He's a quiet walker and is always ready for an adventure. Romeo is neutered, microchipped, heartworm tested, and up to date on all vaccines. Come meet Romeo and all his other fluffy friends waiting for their forever homes at our shelter. We're located at 6820 Old Highway 53, and we're open 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. 7 days a week. We hope to see you there.
Yes, Romeo would like his Juliet, so please take him home. Mr. Mayor, council members attending. So our intake for the year to date has been 321 dogs. 273 dogs have gone through and left the shelter. 49 to rescues, 199 returned to owners. 23 have been adopted and 2 euthanized with a 98.67% release rate. Current shelter population is 54 dogs, which has 51 adult dogs and 3 puppies. 100 microchips have been done, 104 free vaccinations from clinics, 11 other vaccinations, 16 neuters, and 13 spays have been done.
Vice Mayor Overton.
So, one thing I'm looking is there at a time that maybe, and I'm not saying next meeting or anything, that in the future here that we could get a show of the dogs, like maybe for that month is still there. It could be done every 30 days. I think it would be nice if you just maybe show some pictures the slideshows, pictures that of the dogs that are still at the kennel, because not everybody can get down to the kennel, so maybe somebody would see it on TV.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, we've also been talking to our public relations people about figuring out ways to highlight them a little bit more, like in the Clear Lake Express.
Great, thank you, Lieutenant.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, Lieutenant.
All right, moving on to item 2, a presentation of a proclamation declaring October 2024 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas domestic violence impacts women, children, and men of all racial, cultural, and economic backgrounds. And whereas emotional and physical scars resulting from domestic violence are often severe and long-lasting. And whereas in the past 12 months, Lake County law enforcement responded to over 480 incidents of domestic violence, including men, women, and children. In the past 12 months, the Victim Witness Division of the District Attorney's Office has served 405 victims of domestic violence, and the District Attorney's Office has prosecuted 243 felonies and misdemeanors acts of domestic violence. Lake Family Resource Center responded to 935 crisis line calls, served victims, and additionally sheltered 127 domestic violence victims and their children for a total of 4,429 bed nights. Whereas it is crucially important to hold perpetrators responsible for assault and to prevent domestic violence at every opportunity, and whereas family violence is a community problem, stopping the cycle requires not only the strength and courage of survivors, but also the support and involvement of all members of the community. And whereas many organizations such as the District Attorney's Office, the Sheriff's Office, Lakeport Police Department, Clear Lake Police Department, and Lake Family Resource Center are committed to ending domestic violence in Lake County and provide essential crisis intervention and prevention services to all members of the community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that this month of October 2024 is designated as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the city of Clear Lake. Our community is urged to support the efforts of the agencies assisting victims of domestic violence and to increase their involvement in efforts to prevent domestic violence, thereby strengthening our community, creating an environment which honors, nurtures, and protects all members of every family. So on this day, do we have someone? Like Family Resource Center? Thank you so much.
Hi, I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for proclaiming October's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And then I just wanted to share that this year's theme through the Domestic Violence Awareness Project is Heal, Hold, and Center, to embrace the many ways we can heal from violence and oppression, commit to holding space for survivors, and center those most marginalized in all our efforts to end domestic violence. This is an intentional pause and a moment of recognition and togetherness for advocates and survivors across the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on to item 3, presentation of a proclamation declaring October 2024 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas, while considerable progress has been made in the fight against breast cancer, it remains the most commonly diagnosed cancer and the second leading cause of death among women in the United States. And whereas each year it is estimated that more than 220,000 women in the United States will be diagnosed with breast cancer, and more than 400,000 will die as a result of the disease. Whereas October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, an annual campaign to increase awareness about the disease. And whereas during this month, we reaffirm our commitment to support breast cancer research and to educate all citizens about its risk factors, detection, and treatment. Whereas as we display pink ribbons and wear pink clothing to raise awareness, we also support those courageously fighting breast cancer and honor the lives of those lost to the the disease. Whereas this October, we recognize breast cancer survivors, those battling the disease, their families and friends who are a tireless source of love and encouragement, and applaud the efforts of our medical professionals and researchers working to find a cure for this deadly disease. And whereas Breast Cancer Awareness Month is an opportunity to unite all citizens in our community to prevent breast cancer deaths through increased education and regular screening. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Clear Lake does hereby proclaim October 2024 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in Clear Lake. Sign this day by me, Mayor Clark. Do we have anyone here who is part of? Yeah, please, Vice Mayor.
So I'd just like to say to the younger people, my daughter had breast cancer at a young age. And the doctors kept telling her that she could, that there was nothing wrong, that she was too young for breast cancer. I really encourage that if you feel, even no matter what age you are, you can be 16, you can be a baby, it doesn't make any difference. If you feel a lump, push to make sure that that's taken care of. Lucky for her, she is a survivor of breast cancer, but it's only because we pushed for treatments and to clarify. So there is no age to breast cancer. And no matter how young you are, make sure that if you feel there's something wrong, make sure you go to the doctors and push to have a check.
Sharing that best. Thank you for sharing that, Vice Mayor. All right, moving on to item F, public comment. This is the time for any member of the public to address the City Council on any matter that is not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the council or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment. And here in the chamber, please come forward, say your name, and you'll be limited to 3 minutes. If you are on Zoom, there is a chat feature where you can leave a comment and the city clerk will read it after the folks here in chamber. Anyone here in chamber would like to make public comment? Oh.
Angela. Am I good? Maybe I shouldn't ask those questions. I've messed up your microphone though. We're just gonna let it do what it needs to do. I just want to come up and give you guys some kudos. I think that it's easy and often that you get complaints because people look to you to solve problems. But I want to give you kudos. I've been working with your code enforcement through the AVA. We've had a car that was out in Borax Lake. It's been there for far too long, but in working together with Water Resources and code enforcement, it is now gone, which is great for people to now drive by and recognize that it's not a normal thing. And I've also, there's time to time, I'm sure you do the same, I'll drive around town and I will smell things or I will see things that look improper in a residential area. And I'll submit those to code enforcement. And just this morning, I was told that they took care of that. And I just want to say thank you for doing the work that needs to be done and thankful for code enforcement to try to keep this city. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Mr. Baden?
I know I'm getting to be a familiar face. But if you're to really complain, I have a couple of suggestions. One stuff is getting the speed limit reduced in the avenues on the side streets. Since they've been chip sealed, the speed limit got faster.
Can you lean over, the folks in the back can't hear you?
Okay, that's
Thank you.
great.
Thank you.
Oh,
Sorry.
Like I say, I'd like to see the speed limit reduced in the avenues because since it's been chip sealed, people are driving way too fast. They did before. And we're looking at a disaster, especially in the intersections up there, that there is no control in the intersection. And you have people traveling 40, 50 miles an hour down that, we're gonna have a major problem in that. That's one suggestion, to see what we can do to get the speed limit reduced. And the other here, I'm here to enforce code enforcement a bit. They have a big job and everything, and they need more financial resources so they can get in and get some of this cleaned up faster. You know, last time I was here, I was complaining about next door. I know that they've been cited. I just talked to Officer Peterson a few times. But that is gonna cost more than what their monthly allotment is to have to clean that up. That's just that one. And there's 2 more places around me that I'd like to see have done, but this is the worst. And that's my suggestion. Let's help the officer over here, and the officer back there, so we can all enjoy the city more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Flory, you have a public comment.
Can you state your name?
Anyone else in the chamber? Yes, please.
Good evening. I'm Mrs. LeBranch. I've been living here for 10 years now, and I just recently became a citizen, so I'll be voting. What has bugged me is I live in Clear Lake Park, and I usually use the Burns Valley Road to go to the store. And now that the new building is there with the, I believe, senior citizens, it's even a busier street. It's not by any means a private road, but the 1,400 some block is in horrible state, holes over holes, and I have seen one of the people living there desperately trying to fix those holes, but it's not professionally done, so the next rain will wash it out again. I mean, there are holes this size and this deep at times, and he said, well, it's considered a private road, so the city's not taking care of it. If you put one of those strips down, I can tell you, you will see that this is no longer a private road, and it should be included in the care of the city.
Can you just, what was the name of the road again?
I beg your pardon?
What road are you speaking of?
The Burns Valley
Burns Valley
Road?
Road.
Yes.
I didn't know this was.
It's just one block going around the corner, and it's in miserable state. The beginning of it and the end of it is taken care of by the city, but this one block is like, it's nobody's child.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for making us aware.
For the project?
Yes, that is a part of this upcoming project. It's almost done being designed.
So it sounds like it should be addressed shortly here. It's part of our road plan going forward here, so. All right, any other comments here in the chamber?
Yeah, I'm just gonna touch on what she just said.
Okay.
I was just questioning the hole in the road by, like if you're coming from the senior center going to Safeway. There's just a hole and you forget to move because you're just gonna hit it. So, I mean, I don't wanna, I try and go to the right, but if you go to the left, there's cars coming, you won't make it.
All right, thank you for making us aware.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments here in the chamber? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, any comments on Zoom?
There are no comments on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you all. I'll bring it back. And we will move on to the consent agenda. Does any council member want to pull an item from the consent agenda?
No, sir.
All right, then I will take a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Public comment?
Apologies. Would anyone like to make a public comment on the agenda, or on the consent agenda? Madam Clerk, anyone on Zoom?
No comments on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
All right, let's bring it back and refresh their memory of that motion.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
And I'll second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Sluten, a second from Councilmember Kramer. Please vote in your board.
Right. Okay.
Motion passes with unanimous vote of the council.
Thank you. Moving on to item 12. Discussion and consideration of resolution 2024-42, granting consent to the County of Lake to establish the Lake County Hospital Improvement District. City Manager Flores.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, council member, so you'll recall on September 9th, you heard a presentation from Mr. Hess, administrator at Minnesota Clear Lake, about the possibility of establishing a hospital improvement district in Lake County. So this is kind of moved forward in the process, and Mr. Katz is here tonight to ask the council to approve this resolution of consent to continue the process. Well, so if you have any additional questions for him, he has have a lengthy presentation, and we do have some of his team on Zoom if there's any technical questions.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. As Mr. Flores said, we're here looking for a resolution. When I was here previously, I shared that we would be going before the board, Lake County Board of Supervisors. We've done that. We're actually in the public opinion phase of that work, which there'll be another meeting on the 22nd of this month. And then we will meet again in front of the board on early in November. But in order to move our work forward, we seek a resolution from the city council to establish this new business improvement district.
Councilmember Pro.
Just in case people weren't here to catch your previous presentation, could you provide a summary of what that entails and why the hospital is asking of this?
Absolutely. So this is, we are seeking additional reimbursement, in a sense, from the state of California to care for our Medi-Cal patients, of which we care for a large percentage of Medi-Cal, both our hospital and Sutter in Lakeport. And so the state, without mincing words, under reimburses us. And so this is a way that we would be able to receive additional funding from them. We would pay an assessment, and that assessment would come back covering the assessment and then matching amount.
So it helps the hospital recover costs for treatments?
Exactly. It allows us to reinvest back into our infrastructure and support those programs that currently don't have a positive bottom line.
And this isn't, so to speak, a tax on your patients or the people that are living in our county?
No tax on anybody. No one will have an impact. It's not something like to pay our assessment. We're raising rates or doing something like that. Everything stays neutral. And then we receive the matching funds.
I appreciate you doing that for me. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? All right, seeing none, if you give us one moment, we'll open up for public comment. Anyone here in the chamber want to make a public comment on this? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, any comments on Zoom?
There are no comments on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
I'll bring it back to council. Councilmember Kramer.
If there are no other questions,
Oh, I know. No,
I'd
looks
like
like
to
you
go
got it.
ahead and make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-42. Resolution of the City Council of the City of Clear Lake, State of California, granting consent to the County of Lake to establish the Lake County Hospital Improvement District.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Councilmember Kramer, a second from Councilmember Sluten. Please vote in your portal.
Okay.
You want to get you more money, computer.
Motion passes with unanimous vote of the council.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everyone?
All right, moving on to item 13, an update on the Boyles Fire. City Manager Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Just wanted to give the council a number of updates around the Boyles Fire. So I'm sure you all saw that Governor Newsom declared a state emergency for the Boyles Fire on Sunday. This is important because it opens up funding through the California Disaster Assistance Act. There'll be some additional funding that the city and other agencies will have access to through this, but kind of the most important part of that is helping those who have destroyed and damaged homes with debris cleanup and funding for recovery. So we're very excited to see that happened. A few other things. So this week we did a debrief with a number of agencies involved in the Boyles Fire, CAL FIRE, California Office of Emergency Services, Lake County Fire, various county agencies, Red Cross, Lake County Sheriff's Office, Office of Emergency Services, etc. Just a few things from that I wanted to point out and follow up on. Overall, we discussed a handful of areas that there could be some improved coordination and communication, which always happens, but the general agreement from all agencies that the overall response from everyone was good, and this one worked pretty well. So that's positive. I did want to talk just for a minute about evacuation plans. This came up before through some of the information that's been shared from candidates and others over the last week or so. There's been a little bit of misinformation. The city does have a number of evacuation plans in place, so that isn't something that needs to be created. There's evacuation maps for situations in various areas of the city already laid out, and the Genesis site, which used to be Zone Haven, which does the evacuation areas that are used by us and Lake County Sheriff's Office whenever there's evacuation warnings or orders. It's important to note that when that happens and an order is released through that process, there is a link to the actual evacuation routes that's provided to folks in there. Now, Chief Hobbs has talked about maybe there's some ways that can be highlighted a little bit more, maybe missed by folks. So we'll be working on ways to highlight that a little bit. And then we have done a little research on specifically sort of the gridlock and avenues exiting on Highway 53. So you're all aware there's not a lot of exits from the avenues on the Highway 53. There's also been talk about we need to have more of them. That's not going to happen. Caltrans is not going to create more access points on Highway 53. Their goal is to eliminate some of the ones we have, just so everyone understands. But Caltrans employees responding, so the traffic signals did lose power and were they go into default red flashing mode until Caltrans comes and installs generators to bring those back up. So they have battery backup, red flashing. Of course, that doesn't help with gridlock at all, right? And Caltrans did not want Highway 53 blocked. But the way the pressure was relieved was one of our officers saw the issue, stopped doing what the rest of the police officers were doing, which is evacuating people from their homes, and did control access north and south on Highway 53 and get people out of there. So I just wanted to share that. I mean, we'll be looking at ways to perhaps prioritize that or make that happen a little bit quicker, but it was a recognized issue by one of our officers, and that's how we're able to relieve that pressure.
Who was recognized for that into it, if this, to start doing that?
Officer Eagle.
Good for him.
We also did an FMAG training. So this is, I didn't write out this acronym. So I don't remember exactly what it is right now, but this is something that, so I mentioned the California Disaster Assistance Act. So this is funding that kind of happens from the point of the incident through the recovery process, right? Resources for that. So when an FMAG has to be declared during the active incident. And so this is federal assistance through FEMA that's provided for the firefighting effort itself. And some of the emergency activities that happened during the incident period. So once the fire was determined to be fully contained, that ends the window for FMAG reimbursement. So Lake County Fire Protection District will have access to reimbursement through that. Now, just it is important that we understand the processes around this. So like the Cash Fire, for example, an FMAG was not declared because it was not requested until after containment had already happened. And so we were much more diligent and careful this time that request happened earlier on. We're fortunate to be able to receive that. So the city will also be eligible for some reimbursement through this program for our response request for mutual aid. Now, this is a 75% of the cost, and the remaining 25% would have to be borne by the city. So we haven't been through this process before. That's why Cal OES came with their staff and gave agencies some training. So we're working through that. There is an initial form that we'll be filing tomorrow related to that. Lake County Fire will be directly an applicant, as well as the County of Lake, because there's various agencies or various departments at the county that will be eligible. And then I'm also going to be working with Canada Unified School District is the other one, kind of the transportation related costs when they came in and helped out for trying to transport people to shelter and stuff like that. So we're going to have to work through whether they are kind of a sub-recipient through the city, or they would also be eligible to apply directly themselves. Ms. Swanson and some others coordinated local assistance center debrief today as well. I'm told that, there was some suggestions for improvement on that, but no significant issues, so that was good. Small business administration hours will be starting possibly next week, so they will be coming in and providing assistance to businesses that were impacted, homeowners that were impacted, providing various funding programs for rebuilding. So it'll be good to get that going. We're also talking internally. We're starting to get questions from folks on, how can they rebuild, and so I think we're probably going to have a couple of workshops for these folks, so we can have our planning building staff here all in one place, and other agencies that are part of that permitting process to help make it as easy as possible for them. So we'll be coordinating that in the coming weeks. Housing update. So as you know, North Coast Opportunities is handling the caseload for this. So the report from, I guess this was in the day yesterday, they're currently managing a caseload with 9 families consisting of 14 individuals that are in hotel accommodations. And then they're providing rental assistance with like initial deposits, things like that, for 5 families currently. There's 74 additional applications that they're working through their case management process for various things, not housing support, but they are in the process now of transitioning people out of hotels into other rental housing. So I think that's working pretty well, and they're doing a good job now. There are a few folks that we still don't have contact information for everyone who has a destroyer damage. So we just had someone contact Ms. Swanson this afternoon that had kind of fallen through the cracks, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Ms. Swanson and others out there that, please contact the city if there's legitimate needs there that we can help with. Just a special thank you to Melissa, who really cares so deeply about helping these folks. It's just love seeing it. We're fortunate to have people like that working for the city. The phase 1 hazardous household waste cleanup is completed last week. The only thing remaining there, they've had some issues over the years with lithium batteries that were pulled out, and there's a lot of lithium batteries out there now that even as much as 21 days after incident have ignited for one reason or another. So those are being stored off-site at a secure place in special storage containers for a period of time, and once that's complete, then those will be removed. Those are not being stored in the city limits. The watershed assessment team was here a few weeks ago. It sounds like they should be beginning their work sometime next week, and so they'll be bringing a team in, primarily California Conservation Corps, and putting in BMPs around the sites, and they want to try to get in before any rains to make sure that ash and other potentially hazardous things don't wash off into any waterways. And then the phase 2 debris cleanup, at this point, probably 5 to 7 weeks for that to start. There needed to be a state declaration, which happened. And they have to go through some procurement process and do contracts for that. So we're kind of waiting on that at this point. I would say all of these things are happening much quicker than with the cash fire, which is good. I guess the last thing on this that I wanted to point out is in our municipal code for disaster like this, folks that have lost their homes, the previous council has adopted a exemption from building permit fees for 12 months after this for folks, as long as they want to rebuild with the same footprint. Now, if they decide to double the size of their home, fees would be charged for that expansion. But I mean that's still okay with the council. Just wanted to point that out. We'll be moving forward, helping all those folks under those rules unless further directed by the council. I think that's kind of the overview. We have any interesting questions.
Thank you. I think you have direction to continue that policy. Councilmember Kramer.
Yeah, with regard to that 20 or 12 months, is that long enough? I think in the last fire, the sulfur fires, I recall, it took far longer for people to get to that point of being able to start to rebuilding.
You're right. It was extended, I believe, with the sulfur fire, and so we can certainly keep an eye on that and see what we think is reasonable. I mean, there were circumstances there with insurance issues, PG&E payments, all that kind of folks were waiting longer than perhaps normal. You never know how these things are going to work. I'm feeling pretty good about the response we're getting and the speed of state assistance and all that. So, some of these folks seem pretty motivated to get in there and get going. But, if it looks like we're at the end there and, are trying and need more time, we'd be happy to bring it back to the council and have you confirm the extension.
Okay, that's fair.
Councilmember Sutton.
Do we have to pass another ordinance to continue this 12-month period, or is it just by administrative action?
The emergency?
Yeah.
Yes, it's every 60 days, so we'll be bringing that back at the November meeting, I guess, to have to extend the emergency declaration. That's all.
Councilmember Purdue.
I just wanted to comment because the people told me how pleasant and nice and caring everybody was at the facility, especially Melissa got mentioned many times about, so the compassion was there. And I think that really, the people really appreciated that. They felt like people cared. They felt that they were there to help. And that's, hasn't, always been the case. Some of them felt like they went away without knowing anything. But several people personally came to me and just said, I just got to tell you, they were really great. So I really think they did a really good job. We're getting better at this stuff, I think, because it's too much practice, and I hope I don't. But I just really wanted to give compliments to all the people that were there and the staff and everything. They just said it was smooth. It wasn't, they just, everything went really well for them. So I had 3 people tell me that, which is, I always say if 3 people tell me something, I want to make sure that it's noticed that happens, because that means, 10 other people probably think the same thing. So at least, so you guys did a great job.
Well, it has, it's been impressive for me too. I mean, I mentioned this once already, but our new community development specialist sitting over there in the front row. I mean, I think this was her 2nd or 3rd week on the job, and it's not easy, literally calling people and informing them that they've lost their home, right? And she did well. Miranda Logan, who has been in our office, she's a former dispatcher, so she's used to dealing with a lot of tense situations. But the 2 of them handled the front line with a lot of these folks that did really make the job.
Yeah, point out that sees to bilingual, so that helped tremendously.
Councilman Bernard.
So just following up on the cleanup. When would we have that information to share with people? I know several families that lost their homes didn't have insurance. And I also know from prior cleanups in the sulfur fire, oftentimes they were then hit with a bill, some months later after the cleanup had taken place. If there's concern about that, are they gonna be able to do their own cleanup? Or the lot, or is it gonna be mandated by, whoever state contracts?
Well, to my understanding, they would have that option. We need to make sure and provide them clarity on what the expectation is. I think with the state declaration, there should be no cost burden passed on to them. And I think that our advice to people would be to let the state clean this up.
True.
They do testing of all this and they remove soil until the test's clean and handle the disposal. And I think it's the safest, best way to go, but I do believe that, they would have the option of doing it themselves.
Yeah, I have neighbors when they lost their homes in the sulfur fire. And then they got a huge bill from the county for that cleanup that they were not expecting.
Well, I would comment on it. I would suggest that have the state take care of it, because once you want to rebuild afterwards and it's not completely signed up, it gets tricky to get lenders to go along with it.
If I can go back to the evacuation plan, it sounds like PD is the authority when it comes to traffic flow in these situations. If they are tasked with higher priority items, do we have a backup plan? Are there other people that are appointed to handle stuff like that?
Well, as the incident moves forward, Public Works gets called in and handles a lot of the, the roadblocks and things like that as well. It's an emergency, so it's not always going to run smooth. And the immediate priority of law enforcement, whenever this happens, there's evacuation orders to try to get people out of their houses. And, we cannot forget that we're fortunate that, no one lost their life in this one. So, that's extraordinarily important, but, we don't want people trapped in that confined area either. So, later, it takes a while to get people in, like CHP came in and started manning some of the other intersections. I think local law enforcement, our mutual aid partners, that intersection at 40 was manned just by us or sheriff's office and so forth. But, I don't know if Chief Hobbs wants to make any comments on this. Perhaps, a law enforcement officer is better at a busy intersection like that, which is a little different than, we had Public Works at the top of Dam Road Extension, 18th Avenue, of course. Our Public Works director was manning that intersection through most of the fires. So.
Thank you. Councilmember
Chief Hobbs.
Chief, yeah, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to add briefly that, I think generally it's best if we can have someone that's a sworn peace officer at these locations doing these. And I think it's just, we learned some things in this one and future ones, just learning to try and, get to some of these other areas to do some of these traffic functions as quick as we can. But the main focus, like the city manager said, is the immediate evacuation of getting people out of the actual areas that are burning at the moment. And then, trying to reposition units or get units to other areas to work with that traffic flow. But we'll definitely be looking at some options, like he mentioned, on the mapping and increasing the visibility of some of the links and ways people can find the evacuation routes to make it a little easier for people to find that information.
Thank you, Chief. Councilmember Kramer.
Yes, just a comment on the cleanup, or question. Will those lots that had a number of cars, number of vehicles, will they be part of what the state, because of this declaration, will clean up?
Yeah, the vehicles will be all included. It's kind of a separate operation from the debris cleanup itself, but yeah, those will all be.
So those, that's safe. 15 or 20 cars will be cleaned out just as well as the ones that have one or two.
Yeah, well, I think that one area has even more than 15 or 20.
Yeah, well, I was trying to be conservative. Okay, thank you.
All right, let's open up to public comment. If you have a comment, please come forward.
Don't touch the mic.
I can learn, and yes, I should not touch the mic. Good evening again. I love what you're talking about to help out with folks that are going to rebuild. I do have a question, and I'm already looking at all the regulations and code for the county, trying to find something. I haven't found it yet, and I hope to continue these discussions past this meeting. But obviously, not all permits come from the city. Just kind of curious if you've had conversations with special districts, the water districts, maybe air quality or anything else that would be environmental health that would be required to, again, do a full rebuild of the home that requires all of those permits in the first place, and if there are waivers that are available.
You would have to deal with fire, school fees, etc.
Yes, well, the first answer is no, we haven't had this conversation with other agencies yet. I mean, there are some fees that I think we've ran into this before with, like impact fees from the school and fire department, I think are generally handled the same way as what I mentioned, as long as you have the same square footage, there's not an additional, it's considered under that program that impact already happened. But if you were to add on, you have to pay for that part of it. But I mean, the connections are there for the water agencies and the sewer stuff. So I wouldn't think those connection fees would be something that will be required at this point. But we'll be following up on that. Yeah.
Typically, if you rebuild, you have to do a new fire code, you have to have a sprinkler, which a lot of times requires a larger meter. It's my understanding that they do charge for upgrading the meter. And also, so that's one.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's true, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right. Any other comments here in the chamber? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, any comments on Zoom?
There are no comments on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Flora, do you require any direction at this time?
I don't believe so.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to move on to item I, City Manager Report.
Okay, almost all of our equipment is in hand for the sound system upgrade for the council chamber. So we're expecting that to happen sometime in November. I wasn't part of it, but Ms. Swanson and Chief Hobbs did a review of our workers' comp claims. It's something that happens a few times a year, reviewing everything and kind of see how things are going, give direction on some of the cases. I just thought the council would like to hear that apparently was raised by them that there's a noticeable reduction in our caseload on those, and their observation that a lot of that is a result of internal culture. I mean, it's common in workers' comp field that morale issues drive workers' comp claims. So I think that's something for all of us to be proud of. Streetlight report, I mentioned, it's probably been a couple months ago, but we did commission a report on our streetlights in the city. We know we don't have enough. Most of the ones in the city are essentially owned and maintained by PG&E. There are some that are owned and maintained by the city, but there's different ways that those can be set up, and you can essentially pay just for the electricity to PG&E, or you can pay them a higher amount and then they maintain the light. So this first phase report, I just got it today. I haven't really went through it yet, but we'll be bringing that back to the council to share the findings. I think one of the things that in our research that actually they found was that, I don't know, maybe 30 years ago, the council actually took action against PG&E to get ownership of the lights in the city. And that was granted. The city just never did it. And so that's something that we'll be looking into. I think it was before Joyce's time, in the late 80s sometime. But anyway, we'll talk about that more. I just wanted to kind of mention it because I know this is a topic that's came up over the last couple of weeks. So, you know, it is a big issue to tackle, but they'll be looking at potential cost savings to the city if we maintain the lights over time, what the payback period is, that type of thing, and what the cost would be to add additional lights, and they would help map and prioritize, you know, which areas make sense to begin with. So we have a hearing on the litigation on the Burns Valley Sports Complex lawsuit tomorrow, so I'll update the council on that. What's that?
So no Friday off.
Oh, no, that doesn't happen too often. And then on Monday, there is also a hearing on our request for dismissal of the Burns Valley and Arrowhead Road project. So that's really the main reason that we were planning on doing that project this year. And the coordination filed litigation on the repaving of that road. And so we have filed a request for dismissal of the course. So there'll be a hearing on that on Monday. So I'll also update you on that and hopefully get that project going again soon.
Within this year or?
There's no way it's going to start this year at this point. We're still working towards a solution on the Tree Streets Road project. Talked about that at some length at the last meeting, I think. And see if there's any way we're going to be able to get this project finished this year. Golden State has a very significant amount of water main that needs to be relocated out of the footprint of the road project. So there's been some issues, you know, with other projects we mentioned, but those are moving along relatively okay, at least as far as I know. And but we have some issues with the Tree Street, so we'll keep you updated when we identify a solution to that. Last week, I made a trip to Palm Springs for the ICSC Western Conference, which is the International Shopping Centers Conference. Was a successful trip, identifying several new retail and development leads. So we'll have a little summary report to provide to council on some of the high level stuff on that. Of course, keep you updated as those connections come together. Wanted to mention the Planning Commission is working on a number of zoning ordinance updates. We've had a couple meetings on that now. Most of that's been approved already. They are putting some additional scrutiny on the sections in there requiring curb gutter sidewalk improvements based on various things. So we'll be talking about that again at the next meeting and hopefully get some resolution there. We'll be bringing that, of course, to the council for final approval. Canoctown Gardens housing development grand opening is next week, so hopefully most of you can attend that. Congressman Mike Thompson will be holding office hours here at City Hall tomorrow from noon to 2 p.m. And reminding everyone that there will be no regular city council meeting on October 17th due to the California League of Cities Conference in Long Beach. Most of you will be attending. That's my report.
Thank you, City Manager. Councilmember Sutton.
I have no issues to report. No report.
Councilmember Kramer.
Yes, I attended some of the various standard meetings that I do every month. The Risk Reduction Authority, their grants best practices meeting they had, also a clerk meeting. I'm going through my calendar so I don't forget anything. Yesterday, I attended Tribal Health's 2-year anniversary festival along with council member Slotin, who forgot about that, I think.
I did almost. Almost.
It was a great event. We being Market were presented with a big check. I already got the little check and it's in the bank for $10,000. So that was a highlight for me with our council member Slotin and I with our Market hats on. And then today I also attended by Zoom the same debrief that Mrs. Swanson attended. I thought it went very well. There was a lot of good questions asked, brought up, a lot of suggestions how to improve it if we ever do it again. I hope we don't, but we probably will. And just to extend your comments, there were a ton of good comments by the other participants in how well the city of Clear Lake ran this conference, and especially the contributions that Ms. Swanson made. And I think we owe you a ton of gratitude for the way you handled it, the way you led it, and the way our staff did it. I think I said something in the last meeting, but it bears repeating. So thank you again for that. I had my Market hat on, and we're now, I think, right at $82,000 that we've raised for the victims, for the survivors of the Boyles Fire. And we're going to be meeting next Friday to figure out how to vet all the folks that were impacted and see how we're going to disperse those funds. We hope to get over, and I think we will easily go over 90,000. Now I'm shooting for 100. So we'll keep you apprised of how we do going forward on that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Purdock.
What does Rotary charge administrative fees for that money?
Glad you asked that, Councilmember Burdock. We don't charge anything. We don't pay ourselves anything. We're all volunteers. We're all Rotarians. The cost of keeping Market going is paid for by the 3-member clubs, Clear Lake, Lakeport, and Kelseyville now. And those costs are generally very low, but everything that's donated gets out to the victim, to the survivors. And we're very proud of that.
Just thought that was important to share.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have nothing to report, but I do want to wish our officers in the K-9 dinner well this Saturday. They're having their dinner. I believe it's sold out. So buy those auction items. Unfortunately, this year we had a bit of a conflict. The Chamber of Commerce is also having our luau on the same night, and we're almost sold out. But looking forward to that event. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Flora, for your support in both.
Vice Mayor Overton.
I don't really have anything to report. The only thing I'd like to make a statement that, because of getting calls now, the senior center is not open, and they're going to see activity there this weekend. And I just want to make sure that everybody realizes that the senior center still is not open. It just happened to be the event that they did get approved to use, but we're still having some problems there. So, I'll put out a notice. I think we'll put out a notice when we're ready to open, to let everybody know. So when everybody sees that activity, I don't want to get too excited. That way.
Thank you. So a couple things coming up. We don't have a meeting in 2 weeks, as Mr. Flores stated, but I want to give a reminder for the Soapbox Derby that's coming up in 2 weekends or so. Vice Mayor Overton, are you still involved with Trunk or Treat? Okay. Well, as always, we need candy, participation, costumes, and whatever else you want to bring. Cars, decorated candy. I think someone brought a goat one time.
Yeah, the pets go over.
A spooky goat, a very spooky goat.
The pets go over really well.
So is our city manager going to enter anything this year?
Soapbox
Derby?
Do you think I've had time to build a car?
I don't know.
All right.
It might be a Rotary project.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. We will see you in November. I think we have a couple of special meetings, which we met. We are adjourned to closed session. We're closing to closed session.
Started to go to the last one.
I still have my old. You didn't sell it, did you? You remember